All right, let's move on, Ryan, to the polling that we have been hyping up because it's so important here at Capitol Hill that now that everybody's returned, it's all anybody is talking about is they're reading the numbers, they're reading the tea leaves. So first up, this is new polling from a Democratic firm. We'll throw this element up on the screen. Ben Dixon and Amandi Inc., they did a poll that found Kamala Harris actually would edge out Donald Trump in a matchup 42 to 41%. Now take that with a giant grain of salt because the margin of error is plus or minus 3.1 percentage points. So it's within the margin of error. That's a very close matchup though. I think the undecided in the polling is pretty interesting. They're actually 12%. That's a big number and 1.4% for a third party candidate potentially. That is going to be powerful. That is going to be a powerful argument. It's going to make the conversation about the Carville, Jon Stewart, Ryan Grimm proposal interesting if polling starts to find Kamala Harris doing really well, which as silly and online as the coconut pill thing seems, what's online is obviously very real. Those memes are very real. And if there can be this like sort of pop cultural embrace of Kamala Harris as the normal alternative to Joe Biden, somebody who can at least string sentences together, I won't be surprised if she starts polling better than she would have had this crisis not, come out publicly.
And what makes me nervous for Democrats is that she will.
I agree.
And then they will use that to say, look, if you look at Gretchen Whitmer, J.B. Pritzker, Newsom, they're all within a couple of points. She's the duly elected vice president. Let's not have an open convention. Let's just nominate her, but I think that misunderstands the kind of flimsy nature of that and how soft those numbers are.
Yep, and Gretchen Whitmer had this poll, as you just alluded to, as Gretchen Whitmer losing to Trump 36 to 40, Gavin Newsom losing to Trump 37 to 40. Again, the margin of error is plus or minus 3 percentage points, so we don't know really where that stands, to be honest. But Gavin Newsom, you have 15% undecided in that Gavin Newsom matchup, so that's 12% with Kamala Harris, 17% undecided in the case of Gretchen Whitmer.
Right.
And those are important numbers too, obviously, because even Trump's support there is only at 40%. 40% is not a high number. So there's a lot of room for everybody in that potential matchup. Meanwhile, that question of what a primary should look like was put to polling as well by a welcome pack. And we can put this next element up on the screen. This is the preferences of Democratic voters. Jon Favreau tweeted, "Our survey reveals," this is an excerpt, "a clear preference among Democratic primary voters. They favor allowing convention delegates to select a new nominee they believe to be electable over President Biden remaining on the ballot by a solid 55 to 40 margin." And that's just as of right now, 55 to 40 margin, which is, pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, and the next point there, exactly, incredible. So in the event that that he does step down, they favor by an overwhelming majority, like 2-1, 64 to 20 something, that they want an open primary.
Yeah.
And in Washington, the idea, okay, James Carville, good for him stepping out, but James Carville, he's willing to say crazy stuff. That's his brand. The hat and he's kooky. But in general in Washington, the idea of an open convention is still considered something that is kind of outside of the bounds of respectable discourse. That's just a little silly. It's cute. It's
what are you talking about?
It's neat that we would do that, but no, we're not actually doing a democratic process. We're going to just give it to Kamala Harris. That is the assumption inside Washington, but fewer than a quarter of Democrats want that to happen. So if you anoint a candidate who has not been blasted yet by Trump, who's calling her Laughing Kamala, by the way, did you see that? That's his name for her now.
Yeah, Laughing Kamala.
I couldn't stop laughing when I saw that.
Nailed it.
So this is before Trump has come at Laughing Kamala. And you're going to anoint her as the VP after you've suffered this massive legitimacy crisis because you've been covering up this degenerative condition that your presumptive nominee had. And you think that you have enough credit with the public to then crown the next person when fewer than a quarter of your own voters say do not do that. And if she wins it in an open convention, great, fine, wonderful. She then is tested. She has shown that she earned it, because we still believe in this country, in the meritocracy, whether or not it exists or not. We believe it. Like, we want it to exist. Like, we want our elites to have earned their place there. And to the extent that they haven't, we hate it. When we resent it. Good for us. It's like the best thing about our culture.
Yeah.
And so to go against that is just asking to get annihilated.
I think people are also forgetting how dangerous it'll be for Kamala Harris that she was serving under Joe Biden, defending Joe Biden. She has been a staunch defender of Joe Biden since the debate, obviously. It's
not going to go away.
No.
The last 2 months would just be about why were you willing to do that?
Right. And who knows what plausible, and Trump will bring that up constantly. And who knows what plausible deniability she has on these questions of doctors visiting the White House. It's probably a lot like Veep, as this election cycle has been basically ripped straight from the script of Veep. And they were intentionally keeping her in the dark because it is the vice president. They don't take that office too seriously. Even
That's what she
Joe
should
Biden
say.
was vice president.
I was a vice president.
Do you know what that means? It's like I go and get ice cream with people on camera.
Yeah,
That's my job.
I can't even get in the White House. Like, I've got my own.
I don't have a pass.
My office is across the street.
Yeah.
She lives up on Massachusetts Avenue. Not even so. Yeah. I'm totally clueless. Go with that.
Yes. And so the RCP average, I think, is worth looking at here. I just pulled it up. Since the debate, Trump's margin in both the five-way matchup and the two-way matchup. So five-way includes the third-party candidates, Cornel West, Jill Stein, RFK Jr. It's his margin, Trump's margin, has basically doubled over Biden since the debate in both the two-way matchup and in the five-way matchup. So that's just since the debate. In the two-way matchup, Donald Trump's number is actually at 47%, which is high for Donald Trump. In the five-way matchup, it goes down to 42% roughly, but his margin either way, the difference between where he is and where Biden is has basically doubled in both of those since the debate.
But what has Biden hanging in is 538 basically.
What's 538?
538 is still at a right now, they're at a 52% for Trump and 48%, like in the simulation. Like, they run 100 simulations, 52 times Trump wins, and 48 times Biden wins. So 538, and Dimitri Melhorn is going to make a big deal of this, I think, in his debate with Cenk that we're going to host later this week. 538 is still talking about this race as a toss-up, even as the approval rating is now at, according to 538, 37.4%.
There's a Wall Street Journal poll, a New York Times poll, there's a CNN poll that were taken since the debate that have Donald Trump up 6 points in a two-way matchup over Biden. There are some that just have him about 2, some that have him 3, but given those fairly reputable polling firms that have these 6-point margins, and honestly, I think it's only gotten worse since the George Stephanopoulos interview. That's debatable, but I think it'll probably bear out in the polling that as we go forward. I mean, this is untenable. And
we'll see.
good for the American people for expressing, I actually understand the argument a lot of people are making about lowercase democracy because I saw it from the right. I saw the Flight 93 election argument from the right for a long time about the sort of existential nature of all of this. But I think the more that there's exposure to plausible alternatives, open convention, what it would look like, the more we can visualize it. I actually think that doesn't help Biden in the numbers because people say, well, it's not such a scramble. There's something that we can do.
Yeah. And speaking of George Stephanopoulos, if people missed it, he was confronted on the street by somebody who happened to be recording and like holding their phone down and asked him about the interview and asked him if Biden could be president for 4 more years. And Stephanopoulos said, no, I don't think he could. And he confirmed that it was him that said it and said he regretted it. As a journalist, he should not have said that, but it's not exactly surprising.
George Stephanopoulos and James Carville?
That's true.
The people have spoken.
The voice from the documentary of 1992, So anyway, up next, an incredible story about the weaponization of charges of anti-Semitism against labor unions. Stick around for that.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.